Okay, my weenie kinfolk. We're gonna do something a little extra special here, so we're not gonna do we're not gonna do our intro or anything like that. I'm not gonna do my long intro, verbal intro. We're just gonna get at it. Actually, did live, uh, a live process, taking you through the process live of putting together a Blackmagic DCP. And unfortunately, this was our first time using a certain provider, and we didn't understand that if you gave it 4K information, if you fed it 4K information into it live, that it actually compressed it more. So the actual pipe became highly compressed, and I know a lot of you guys have had a hard time actually reading what was on screen. So we're going to redo that whole process. I'm going to take you through it real quick. I'm not going to get into the pre-production stuff. I'm not going to get into the pre-production, the packaging element of prepping yourself to make sure you get good DCPs. If you need that, the audio's there. It's real clear. It's marked out, and you should be able to get that from there. We're just going to deal with the production stuff here, okay? So I'm going to take you through it real quick, all right? Well, not real quick, but we're going to be about our business as far as getting this done. All right, so let's make a DCP in Resolve 18, okay? So I'm going to resolve the actual bin portion where we're going to add our assets and stuff like that. I've added some assets here, and as you guys can see, they range from, in resolution, they range from 1280, 720p to 1080p, all the way up to UHD, and then some 4K, 2160. Here we're gonna deal straight with 4K. So we're gonna take some footage that is 4K footage, okay, and we're gonna take that and make a DCP. All right. If you want to know how to deal with the other formats, like I said, go watch the other video. The link is up in the description. Okay, so let's get started. All right, the first thing I want to do when I'm coming into the program, I'm going to assume at this point that you're feeding something like an output from Premiere. If you're dealing with the timeline, then this is a different story. You're taking your content. You're just going to change the timeline. Same as I'm doing here, we're just going to alter the timeline. But if you are coming into the program with, say, a QuickTime file or a ProRes file that you just want a DCP, this is where we're going to start. All right, so first thing we're going to do here is we're going to choose one of our flats, okay? Now, as I said yesterday, you want to deal with the DCI flat formats, okay? You do not want to get into a UHD, just anything that doesn't say DCI, you don't want to mess with. You want to stick with the DCI flavors. That's going to get you the proper screen resolution for a DCP. All right. Again, go back to the video if you need to know. So here we're going to pick DCI flat because our content is 1.85. So that's important. Like DCI formats that you choose are based on your aspect format. Okay, your aspect ratio. I'm going to pick flat because it's 1.85. If I had done a scope film or I intended to be broadcast as scope, 2.39, so on and so forth. Okay, so we're going to pick DCI 1.85. That's what we're going to choose. All right, and you can see here it's going to we're going to end up with a we're going to end up with 39.96 for our flavor, okay? So we are right there where we want to be, okay? 3.96, okay. You guys should be able to see this pretty clearly. This is at 2K, and we're not going through streaming here. We're doing this actual screen captures. So, all right. So everything else here we're going to leave alone. Okay, we're going to leave everything else alone here. Now, when you set up your project, we set up for 24 frames per second. Again, something we talked about in the other thing. Not going to get into it too much here. I'm going to output a 24 frames per second DCP. That's what we're going to do. If you need another frame rate, like I said, go watch the other video. It'll explain in depth what you need to do in order to work with those other frame rates, whether it be 30, 60, whatever. Here we're going to output a 24 frames per second SMPTE DCP, okay? So I'm going to take all of this. I'm just going to hit save. Okay. Oh, real quick, one thing, we're going to make sure that we have our color management. So we're going to go over here to color management. I'm going to choose here. I'm going to choose Davinci RGB. The important thing here, the color science is important. You just want to make sure it's wide enough. I would stick with Davinci RGB. You know, now whatever color space your project that you're bringing in is, you want to make sure that that timeline color space matches it. So if you've outputted Rec 709, which most of you guys, that's what you would be doing, you want to pick Rec 709 for that color space. Okay. Now you can leave it at scene. I myself, if your monitor is 2.4, I would put it at 2.4. It's up to you. You can do whatever you want to do. Do not pick Rec 709A. That's for YouTube material. So if you've graded your material for YouTube and that's how you selected it, like if you graded in this color space 709A, then of course you want your timeline to be 709A. If most of you guys are grading at 709, Rec 709, choose this, okay? And unless you've done some wacky stuff with your gamma, where you chose different gamma for it, choose whatever's appropriate for what the output was for your particular project, okay? Here, we're going to stick with Rec 709. You know, I know my monitors are 2.4, so I'm going to pick 2.4. You don't, unless you've done Dolby Vision or something else like that, you don't need to turn any of that other stuff on. Just make sure your color timeline, your timeline color matches what the output color was from, like if you're coming out of Avid or you're coming out of Premiere or Lightworks or whatever that content that you're bringing in, make sure it matches. Plain and simple. Okay. All right. And we're going to hit save. Okay. We're done there. We're good. Okay. So now we're going to move over. I'm going to bring up this timeline that I've already prepared. This is a timeline I've already prepared. It's already set up at 3996 at about 2160. All right. And now I'm in the edit format. So I've got my I've got my project edited. Everything's put together. I'm pretty good to go. I'm going to mute this sound real quick and we'll just play through while we're talking about this. All right. And this was a project I shot. You know, I explained it in another video. I'm using some footage that I just cobbled together. I'm just using an example here. But it's something I DP'd for a director. All right. I'm going to let the motorcycle go by. Okay, so I've got everything in a timeline. I'm pretty good as far as like my setup. You know, haven't done any color here, but let's say I color, it's prepped, sounds ready, sounds good, we're ready to go. I'm going to mark out my timeline here, okay? All right. And I'm going to actually take this one and kind of, okay, so I did that for the previous for the live video. I showed you guys how to take, say, 4K footage and scale it into 3996. So that's why you see some of the scaling done on here. If you look here, there's some of the clips have scaling on it because we shot it with that in mind, and I just did a scale up so I didn't get the black bars. So this will take up the whole entire screen in the theater. You won't end up with black bars, but we shot it that way. Okay, again. We shot it with that in mind. Again, if you need to know why you should do those things, pre-production, go watch the video. Okay. All right. So here we're going to head on over to our. We're going to head over to the render thing. So we're all ready. It's all packaged. It's edited. We're good to go. Okay. And assuming this is a quick time that we got from, say, Premiere or something like that. Okay. So now we're over in the render, in our render tab. Okay. Now we're going to make a DCP. All right. Now I've got a preset already. I've got presets already for my DCPs. Okay. And if you look across the top here, you see that they've got some presets set up for anything, just any delivery format that you might encounter. You can make your own custom stuff. I've made a custom DCP 2K because I make a lot of those. All right. But down here where it says export video, this is where you can highlight really quickly, just kind of turn that into what you want. So, you got all your options here: QuickTime, TIFF, EXR. We're going to pick DCP. All right. You got a choice between EasyDCP and I really slayed this yesterday. Kakadu. I think I nailed it. Kakadu JPEG 2000. Okay, so here's the deal. If you pick the EasyDCP, there's an additional license that you have to purchase from EasyDCP. Okay, the difference between EasyDCP and Kakadu is that EasyDCP allows you to do encryptions. So you can encrypt your DCPs, okay? Again, not going to get too much into what encryption is. Go back, look at the other video if you need to know what that is and why. And if it's an option you need in your DCPs, okay? I also gave you a workaround where you didn't have to go through EasyDCP. You could actually use Kakadu for the speed, and then later take it over to DCP-O-Matic that does do encryption, and then encrypt your DCPs when you need to do that. So there's you can get the speed from Kakadu, and then the encryption from DCP-O-Matic. Okay, those are the options for you. Okay, so back to this. Why are we using Kakadu? Speed. Okay. Resolve leverages your GPU, so it uses your GPU to process these things. So anybody that's ever used DCP-O-Matic, beautiful program, great tool, slow, insanely slow, right? And as you guys will see here in a second, Resolve doesn't suffer from that. It's super fast. Okay, so we're going to move on. We're going to choose Kakadu JPEG 2000 for our RIP. And we know we got a 4K DCP, so we're going to change this to 4K DCI flat, okay? 4K DCI flat, because that matches what our timeline was, okay? We're not doing HDR, not high definition. We didn't do HDR10. We didn't grade in HDR10 or grade in Dolby Vision, so we're not checking that, okay? This will be grayed out. This is your resolution and frame rate. That comes from your timeline. So whatever your timeline is set up for, that you're going to see that here. It should be grayed out. Now, real cool fact, if your resolution here doesn't match the type that you're putting out, you go back and check and make sure that they match. 4K DCI flat is 3996 by 2160 DCI flat. Same thing, all right? Don't let the 4K fool you. It's the same thing, all right? We're running at 24 frames per second. Now, we're going to get into bit rate, all right? What's my bit rate? My bit rate is, the standard, the suggested standard for DCPs is 220 megabytes per second. Let me repeat that, 220 megabytes per second. All right, let me also say this. Nobody records at 220 megabytes per second, okay? A lot of overkill. You're making a huge file. And when I say huge, I mean huge, okay? It scales up into, like, you're heading into terabyte territory if you're doing it like a 2-hour film or something like that. Just way too much for a simple 2D film, okay? Now, as I said in the other video, my company, we do anywhere between 80 to 200 DCPs a year. We generally work between 125, 150, and maximum 175. Okay, so what tells the tape? 125 if you're doing feature films, dramas, dramatics. Not a lot of action and movement in the frame. Not a lot of fast action, so no micro-based stuff. If you're doing a dramatic thing and maybe somebody is walking fast or running or whatever, 125 will do you fine, okay? 150 if you have that action, if you've got some fast moments and and things are, you know, you've got parts in there where you're going to end up with the frame changing rapidly. Okay. Now also 150 on shorts. I'll do, you know, there's some shorts where if color's an issue, like an animated short or something like that, we're going to do 150, right? I don't want to get too much into it, but okay. 125, 150. 175 if it's critical, like you have color critical, you have a lot of action. Like if I'm doing Michael Bay, I'm gonna, you know, like I'm gonna creep up towards that 165 kind of territory, because it's a lot of fast motion blur going on, and you want to make sure that you're getting high, like the greatest quality definition at every single frame. Remember, DCPs are not video files; they are still images that are chained together to play at the, like play one after another. They are sequential still images. So you want to make sure the quality that you set for each still image is gonna dictate how clear your project is. Now, you do not need to go to 225. All right, just don't need to do it. You also need to feed it a file that's, you don't need to go overkill on your ProRes file or your QuickTime file or whatever you're sending into the DCP. Again, go back to the previous video, the live video. I explained in depth why. All right, moving on. All right, so we don't need to worry about advanced settings. You don't need to worry about that stuff. Leave it the way it is. Now we're going to go over to composition. This is where we're going to do our business. Okay, so our composition. You know, we're gonna go in and change some features here. That's actually what's gonna give us our name, and I'll explain that in a second. All right, so I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go edit, and I actually had this all filled out from yesterday. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and reset this. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and reset everything in here. All right, so this is important. This is like our important part here of what we need to do. So like, we're gonna go in here. I'm going to give it a film title. So here, we're going to give it a different film title. Yesterday we did Roman Buddies. Now we're going to go Roman Friends. Okay. And as you can see, it won't let you do past a certain amount of characters. So I'm going to go Roman Guys. All right. So let's call Roman Guys. All right. I'm going to tell it to use the composition settings. And as you can see down here where it says content kind, I've already kind of highlighted that it's a feature film. This time we're going to change it to a short. We're going to do a short film. So here, I'm going to go here. I get all these other options. I'm going to scroll down till I find short. And I'm going to tell it now it's a short film. And as you can see here, you're going to get this feedback. So everything that you do here is going to be represented up here. This is very important. This is what the server reads. This is what the DCP server reads. When it ingests your film, it's going to read this script that we're building here. And that's what's going to tell the server exactly the information about your film. So our frame rate, 24 frames per second. You don't have to choose this. You're just putting it into the time up here. So it's going to say it's a 24 frames per second short film. Okay, shot at 1.85. It's a flat 1.85 film. It's a short film shot at 24 frames per second. Couldn't be like really simple, right? So one way to check your DCPs once you're all finished is to go up here and look at this strip. And if anything in the strip doesn't match up, then you check some wrong boxes. All right, so we're going to go down here. This was done in the United States as far as audio language, so we're going to choose English. Okay, we don't have subtitles. If we did, we'd check it here. All right, our territory. All right, so what territory are we projecting in, right? So we're going to project in the U.S. territories. All right, rating. I don't have a rating for it. We didn't apply for one, so leave that blank. Do not fill out a rating if you don't have an MPAA rating or some other equivalent rating. Don't fill it out. Okay, audio type. This is 2K. This is a 2-track stereo. Okay, so we're going to do 2-track stereo. You don't need to check anything else here, whether it be high, VL, SL. You don't need to check any of that stuff. Just leave it alone. If you got some kind of custom thing that you did to it, you can put it here. like if you're doing some type of like maybe like the Sony SD DS stuff, maybe you did that. Okay, that's fine. You can put those kind of custom modifiers here. No need, we didn't do it. Okay. Our original, this is the resolution of the original resolution of the footage was 4K. All right. So that's going to tell the track that it's 4K footage, right? This is a 4K track. All right. It's 4K that's been put into a DCI flat. Okay. All right. Studio, that's generally the studio that's doing the production studio. Here, I'm going to put in our production studio. So we're going to call that Ultra. Okay. I'm going to include the date. So this is the date that we're creating the DCP. Okay. So this will help you if you have to create multiple DCPs. That date will tell you the date that it was created. Faculty, the facility, that's the DCP facility. So if you're sending it out to somebody, they'll fill it out, so on and so forth. Over at MadWorks, we use a custom one, which is our call letters, MAD. Now, we're going to fill that in. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to tell it what type of DCP you're giving it. Interoperative, like we said before in the other video, interoperative is old school. That's the old school type. You need to check with your theater. If this is a one-off or you send it to a festival, please look at the guidelines. Make sure that they're not dealing with an older projector. If they're dealing with an older projector, 9 times out of 10, they can only accept that interoperative. And you need to kind of stick to 24 frames because that's the interoperative standard, okay? The newer DCP servers, the newer projectors can take SMPTE. So we're going to check SMPTE because we're making a newer DCP. So even if I was 30 or 60 or 48, I'd be okay. I could be okay here because this is the type of SMPTE allows you to do multiple frame rates. Okay, but you got to know that, and again, addressed over the live video. Okay, package type, don't have to mess with this. You can say original version if you want to. Okay, you can leave it at none, or you can say original version. That's more something that if you're going to be sending like an updated DCP to a theater, then you can say version, there's a different version of it. Okay. All right. So we're all set here. And if we read this back, we look at it, we see that we have all our information and it's all correct. Okay. I'm going to hit OK. Now, I've got that down here. Now you'll look here and you'll see content kind didn't change. We changed it to short film. It's still set at feature. What you have to do is go change that. Okay. Now you can do it the opposite way. So what we could have done is change this to short film. And then once we launch this, said use composition settings, and it would have updated. Short film would have came up right in here. And it would have loaded short film up in there. So watch, if I say use composition setting, nothing changes. Why? Because the first thing I did was declare this as being a short film. Then once I opened up the edit thing, this was checked and it changed that to here. Okay. So you can do it either way. That's my point. It can be done either way. It's up to you. All right. All right. So we're good here. We don't have to mess with any of this other stuff. None of this other stuff needs to be messed with. So we can leave that alone. Now, real quick thing I want to remark on before we move on. I saw a couple other videos where guys were suggesting that you had to go in and change your color space tag or your gamma tag to match DCI P3 XYZ, the color space of the DCP theaters. You do not need to do that. Okay, let me repeat. You do not need to change the color space tag here or any place in your DCP render to match the new color space from DCP. You don't have to do it. The minute you selected DCP here, Resolve automatically knows that when you go to render this, they will convert the color space over to DCI. And you'll see it in a second. Once I hit render, you're going to see the color space change. It's an automatic thing. You don't need to change. So you don't need to touch any of this stuff here. Okay? All right. All right, so our audio, we're good to go. Okay, and we'll talk about that in a second once we hit render. Make sure it's a set render single clip because you want the whole frame. You don't want to render out like one DCP for this, one DCP for the second clip. You don't want to do that. That's individual frames. You just want to do single frame. No problem. All right. We're in our last thing. We're getting our file set up. Okay, so right now we haven't addressed what our naming convention is. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over and now we're going to say, hey, if, package name uses, and we don't want to say custom name. We don't want to use a timeline. What we want to do is use the composition name. So that's our composition. That's our composition name from composition settings. That's this name here. Okay. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to select composition name. And up here, what you see now is the file name has become that composition name. Pretty easy, okay? I'm going to set my render speed to maximum. Now, if your Resolve uses a GPU, like I said before, it leverages your GPU. So if you don't have a very robust GPU, if you don't have a RTX flavor or advanced AMD thing, be judicious with your render speed, okay? Because it's going to leverage your card, okay? If you don't have a robust card, then practice rendering out some content in Resolve before you get started here, and then set your render speed to be able to make sure it keeps up, okay? And you don't end up with a crash or something like that. All right, so I got everything set up. We're all set up. We got our location. If you need to set your location, you can do that now. Now, the one thing I need to do is I need to go back real quick and just verify and make sure that none of this changed. Once I put that composition thing in here, you want to make sure that none of this stuff here changed. It's just a brief kind of I want to briefly look at it. I'm going to change this to, like I said, this is a short now, so I'm going to change that to 125. Okay. Everything here looks pretty good. We're doing single reel. All right. So we're pretty much good. We're good right now to send out our DCP. All right. So I'm going to take my DCP and I'm going to start set it up for render. Now, what happened? I got a invalid audio track count. Why did I get that? I got that because I'm feeding a DCP stereo audio tracks. The DCP standard, the DCI standard for DCPs is not stereo audio. It's 5.1 and higher, okay? It expects to see 5.1 or higher surround sound. That's what it expects to see. You're not giving it, you're giving it something like you're giving it stereo audio, it's going to throw you an error, okay? You can ignore this. We're going to say add anyway, and it's going to start our job here, okay? I'm going to kill this job here. All right. So we're ready to go. We got it in the queue. We're ready to set up our job. Let's go ahead and render it out. All right. What did you see? If you look now and you look here, the color space has changed. The color has totally changed. It's got a green cast to it. It's muted out. That's because Davinci Resolve is converting it into the projector color space. You didn't need to do anything to it, okay? You didn't need to touch it. It does it on its own. And as you can see right now, I'm doing a screen capture. I got screen capture stuff running, and this thing's ripping out, okay? I got about a minute to go on it, okay? All right, so I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna let it render out, and then we'll finish up, okay? All right, so okay, so we're back, man. Thing ripped out. This is a minute and 38 second clip, and we rendered it out in a little over 2 minutes. Okay, now given the fact that we're running screen capture, I'm running my screen capture stuff. The previous one ripped out in around a minute. Okay, so we lost about a minute there. But as you can see, much faster than DCP-O-Matic. very fast, depending on your hardware. Like I said in the live video, we ripped out a 2-hour film. 2 hours, I think it was 2 hours and 3 seconds exactly, and got it done in about 1 hour and 40 minutes. Okay, and got it to the theater. We had to hand deliver it to the theater. So Resolve DCPs are extremely fast and extremely easy, as you guys can see right now, to set up. Okay, DCP-O-Matic is great, and if you got the time, by all means, great tool. It allows you to do encryption right then and there. By all means, use it. But if you're an independent filmmaker, that's who I'm talking to here, and you need to get it for a one-off or a film festival or whatever and stuff, this is a great option and gets you going. I'm messing with Resolve 18 Studio version, so keep that in mind when you do it. So we're here, as you guys can see right now. Here's our new DCP, and we're going to bring up the. So here's our new DCP. 1.73 gigs at 125 megs per second. Okay, so there you go, guys. DCPs, making DCPs real fast, real quick, real easy in Davinci Resolve 18. Sorry about the live video. Still some great nuggets over there. So by all means, just listen to the broadcast. There's a couple cheat sheets on there. Take the cheat sheets down. But go ahead and refer to this video, and you should be all set. All right. Once again, man, JEM, Mighty Hova, I'm that guy. Bringing it to you whenever I can. Be on the lookout for some of our original content. King of the Block on streaming soon. ESPN, great documentary. Just wrapped on that, and actually we're creating DCPs for that as we speak. As I said before, like we always say, man, you know the deal. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button, man. We're going to get it up as much as we can. Once again, JEM, that guy, Mighty Hova, I'm out.